So the big question is this. Why well-being conscious women just like us who want to live healthy and happy life are constantly feeling vulnerable like, what if I get attacked? And so many people who teach self-defense are tough men or martial artists who don't seem to understand what women really go through every day. How can we feel safer and be more confident in our personal safety? That is the question, and this channel gives you the answer. My name is KINKO Hamilton, and welcome to Rise Up Against Violence. All right, ladies, you are in treat today. I met this woman through a Facebook group called Women Self-Defense and Guns. And she is such an awesome, I should say, badass. And I have a tremendous amount of respect and trust for her in terms of firearms and self-defense, how to do self-defense and how to condition your self-defense. So her name is Lisa Ludwig. She is an NRA firearms instructor, NRA Chief Range Safety Officer, certified Glock Armorer, as well as she is the president of She Trains You, and she has a gun club. So yeah, what can I say? And she's from Long Island, New York. Hey, come on, welcome New Yorkers. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kinko. I appreciate you having me. This is such a blessing. I love working with you. And just like you said, we met in the Women's Self-Defense and Guns group. And since then, you've been doing self-defense. I've been doing firearms, and the ladies have just loved it. We blew up in that group. We only been in there a couple of months, and we went from 1,000 members to 4,000 in about 2-3 months. So thanks to you, thanks to me, thanks to the admins, that we're doing great in that group, and we really hope to grow. Our goal is 10,000 women, hopefully by 2022 is our goal. So come join us on the Facebook group; it would be great. But thank you again for having us, Kinko. This is so great, and I look forward to going back and forth with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I am so excited to have you because I learned so much from you already through the group, like Lisa said, right? So ladies, please check it out. It's Facebook group. And I believe you have an Instagram page as well now, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So Lisa, I know you are all about firearms and you have a tremendous amount of experience in that, but tell us how you started in your self-defense journey.
Sure. I would say I was about 12 years old or so, and I think I was getting picked on, and I wouldn't say bullied, but I was getting picked on, and it was never to a fist fight, but I never wanted to get that far. And this was back in you know late 80s, early 90s, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were really big. So everybody was into martial arts. It really was an up and coming thing, especially being from New York. There wasn't really a lot of qualified instructors then. It was very minimal. Now it's like you see martial arts studios everywhere. But it wasn't like that. So I started off in Taekwondo when I was about 12 years old, learning punches, kicks, blocking, doing katas, tournaments. And it was great. I loved it. I engulfed all of it. It was so much fun. But then you learn as you get a little older that Taekwondo is really more for children. It's not really like an adult martial art.
Why
It's a
is
little
that? Tell
why
me
is
why.
well, in my personal opinion, it's a very flary type of martial art. Like you're not going to do a flying side kick into somebody. I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, you can, but it's not a normal thing. Like usually it's grappling or, takedown methods or, just down and dirty, not something so flary, a lot of spin kicks and, these wild pressing kicks, it just doesn't work like that. So I started realizing, I'm like, okay, there's other flavors out there. It's not just Taekwondo. So I moved on to like a jujitsu kung fu. It was like a combo. And I saw a world of a difference right away when we were working with grappling, we were working with, hand to hand. We were even working with weapons. I was learning how to work with nunchucks. I was working how to work a katana. I was working with size. So all these things, were great, growing up. And then my studio closed down, unfortunately, when I was about a purple belt. And then I had to go look for another home. So I went and I found like another, like a ninjutsu, jujitsu type of studio. And then I didn't really go for too long because, like, I don't know. I guess I kind of grew out of it. And by that time, I was probably about, I want to say 22 at the time. So from 12 to 22, I was really, really into martial arts. And then from 22 to 44, I really kind of stopped. And I shouldn't have. I should have kept going. And I lost a lot of my muscle conditioning. I lost a lot of my, just everything. I had a lot of atrophy just from not using it.
Mhm.
And now that I'm kind of getting back into it again, I've been hitting the bag. It hurt coming back, 20 years, no doubt. Like, I couldn't even really throw a real punch without really hurting myself. So I obviously had to start off slow and easy. And now 2 months later, I'm starting to gain muscle again. My legs, all my muscles are coming back. I'm conditioning again. So when I hit the bag, it feels like nothing almost now. So that just goes to show that it does work. And if this is another point I wanted to bring up about self-defense and martial arts, whatever, is that, you know, if you think that you're going to throw a kick at somebody and not hurt yourself, if you didn't practice, you're sorely mistaken, because you're going to probably hurt yourself more than hurt the person. So it's all about practice. It's all about knowing how to punch and where to punch. Like, where are you going to be? Like, how close do I have to be to you to make a successful punch? And a lot of people don't realize how personal it really is to make a good punch. I really have to be in your face to get a good connection. I mean, granted, I could do, far away, but if I want a real good connection, it's personal. So, and another thing that people don't realize is there's no laws in a fight. It's, I'll pick up a garbage can and throw it at you, or I'll have a knife in my pocket, or whatever. There's no law. It's not just about, going to a tournament.
Yeah.
This is real life. So that's where practicality kind of came in with, it wasn't martial arts anymore. I was turning it to self-defense. And this was like your biggest thing, you were talking about, is you were asking me, do I have methods of self-defense? I really don't, because 30 years ago, they didn't have methods. They were just opening up and just becoming a studio. Like, no one even knew what these businesses were. And it was just simple stuff. Now, 30 years later, you guys are getting into the most incredible theories. I mean, they make a lot of sense. It's just the only thing I have a little gripe with that is that I don't want women specifically to get lost in all of the verbiage. I would rather them more understand it than be like, well, he has a threatening manner and la 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 la, and this is how I react to that. I would rather it be more dulled down and less verbiage and more action, would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, totally. It makes total sense, Lisa. And you are, so move on to self-defense. I mean, more like firearms, right? So what motivated you, or what led you to train with firearms?
Well, good question. So as I stated before, I'm from New York, so it's
No
tougher out
guns,
here.
right? In New York, no guns, isn't it?
Well, no, there's guns. It's
I
just
mean,
no concealed guns.
right,
We don't have a concealed carry here, but we can.
right.
We have something called a sportsman or a premise or something like that, which means I can have it for home protection. I can go to the range with it, and I can go hunting with it with a license, with a hunting license. But other than that, so I'm just, I'm a basic Joe Schmo. Just because I'm an instructor doesn't mean I'm anybody special. I don't have a carry license, but because my business is firearms, I am carrying them because it's my right to carry them to and from the range. So I do kind of carry them, I guess you could say. But here's the thing. So years ago, when I moved to my new home, the police were not very responsive. And there was a lot of riffraff hanging out on the side of my house. I live on a corner. And for some reason, they just love my house. I don't know why. I really don't get it. It's dark, I guess, and they could just do what they want to do. And they leave litter. They've left hypodermics. They've left beers and drugs and people having sex,
Oh,
people
where?
defecating on
In
the
your
side of my
house?
house. on the side of my house.
Oh my God.
I know. So I would call the police
Yeah.
and they wouldn't even come. They'd be like a half hour later, they would come by. I'm like, if this was the case, and I was actually having a problem, I would be dead because
Yeah.
there's no way that the police are going to come. First of all, in this now, how it is now anyway, with police, they're really not going to put their life on the line for you anyway. So you really kind of need to take control yourself. And that's kind of where it happened. 20 years ago, when 9/11 happened, I picked up a shotgun because I thought what was going to happen now was going to happen then. And I asked a local military guy, would he help me work with the shotgun? Because I was petrified of it. And he took me to the range. We shot a few skeet, and I went home. He came to my house. He showed me how to clean it, how to clear the house with the gun, and how to store it. And I left it under my bed with a sock over the muzzle for like 2 years. I didn't touch it. I was petrified. So I was like, this isn't good. So then when I moved, I was like, I can't go outside with my shotgun. So I'm like, I got to get a handgun. So I went and got my handgun license. So I got my handgun license, thankfully, before the pandemic.
Mhm.
And then it took 8 months. So you can only imagine what it's going to take now after the pandemic, how long it takes. It took me 8 months prior. So I finally get my handgun license, and not that I was waving it around to people, but it was nice to have it in my belt, just to make sure that, God forbid, something was going to happen, I could protect myself. And I wasn't stupid. I didn't just walk over to like the Crips and the Bloods and, the mongrels. I'm not walking over to people like that. I'm walking over to like the 16-year-olds that are smoking a blunt, or the two old men that are smoking meth on the side of my house, whatever. Yeah, exactly. So I would knock on the window and I would say, what are you doing? Get the F out of here, or I'm calling the police. And usually they would leave right away. So that
Yeah.
was really the beginning of it. Then about 2, 3 weeks later, after getting my handgun license, I saw almost a violent break-in my neighborhood. And it was, what the Ring camera is, right?
Mhm.
The Ring. There's an app that will notify you if someone local in your neighborhood had something that was going on. So I got a video of a lady running into her house, slamming the door, a guy running behind her, and had a full mask on and a 9mm in his hand. And he was donkey kicking the door. Thank God that the door did not open. But I
Yeah.
was in my neighborhood watch group on Facebook, and I said, you know what? What would this lady have done if that door did not open? If it would have opened, what would she have done? Does anybody want to learn firearms? And next thing you know, I had about 50 women be like, me, 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 me. And I was like, no way, this is crazy. I'm on to something. So I went and I got my NRA certificates, all my certifications. I got insurances. I got places to speak, a place to shoot at, every way I could do it. And I started my club. And, we grew from a few members to now we're up to about 60 members. And I got so big, I had to open up other chapters. So now I have a Nassau chapter, I have a Brooklyn chapter, I have all these other chapters, and we're still growing. We're going to be continuing to grow. So if anybody listening wants to do a chapter franchise opportunity, please reach out. But anyway, but that's really the humble beginnings of it. Is that I just kind of felt that there was a need for women to learn firearms, and not from the tactical type of guy, the guy that's full military. And there's nothing. I'm not bagging on them. It's just when it comes to a woman and how she wants to learn, she doesn't want to learn from a military badass. Although she does, she wants to, but she doesn't want the intimidation factor to come
Yeah.
along with that. And a lot of the times, these guys kind of treat women badly, unfortunately, when they train. I had a couple of newbies that I was working with the last couple of days, and they both were like, Lisa, you're so patient. You never once were like, oh, I already told you that like 10 times. Like, I'm not like that. I'm not, I want to say an asshole, but I'm not an asshole. I'm not. I'm very nice. I'm very patient. If I ask you to remove your finger, one time politely, I will say it 1,000 times politely, because I don't want to intimidate you. I don't want you to feel like you're stupid. I want you to have fun, and I want that wall of that like tension to just come down, because once it comes down, it actually is fun. It really is a fun thing to do. It's fun to shoot. Granted, at home when we're talking about threats, not so fun, but at least you'll resort to what you trained. So just like martial arts and self-defense, you have to train. You know, if people think that they're going to pick up a handgun and shoot at somebody, they're sorely mistaken, because it takes a lot of training and a lot of everything: balance, breathing, grip, sight alignment, sight picture, the whole 9 yards. Everything comes into play. And if you don't know all these theories, just like you were talking about, to firearms, you're really not going to grasp it fully. And that's the same thing you were talking about with martial arts and self-defense. Yes, there's martial arts all day long, and then there's self-defense, and then there's the theories in between. And if you don't understand those theories, you're going to miss a lot of things. So it's great that you're kind of breaking it down. And the same thing for me. I have to break it down to students. If they're shooting bullseyes in less than 2 hours, then they listen to my theories perfectly, and they apply the theories perfectly. So I don't know how it is in your world and how you train, but I don't know how you measure your success. But to me, that's a success for me. If someone can shoot a bullseye in less than 2 hours that has never shot before, I think that's amazing. So
Yeah, I
that
think
was it.
that's amazing. I mean, have you done the axe throwing?
I
Like,
have.
you know, I did bullseye once, but it's just tough. Like, it looks so
Yeah.
easy, right? Like, boom, boom. I'm like, I could do this, and it's not that easy, you know. I mean, axe. I mean, whoever use axe for self-defense, but
It
you know,
happens.
it's the same thing. Like, if you don't practice, if you don't train, it's almost impossible for you to execute when needed. So
It's true.
for with the guns though, I have a question, Lisa, because I have
Sure.
children at home, and I asked you that in a Facebook group as well. You know, I was reading the statistics of gun-related uh, accidents, gun-related accidents, and family who has guns has like more gun accidents, obviously, like
False
cause
there.
death, like
So yeah.
children, yeah,
Right.
involving children death
Mhm.
than families who don't have guns. And that's obvious, but that really worries me that kids, you know, accidentally touch the guns or something
Mhm.
happened and blow off and ended up, you know, having dead children in my own bedroom or house. Like,
Of course.
that's like the biggest. I don't have guns at home, and the reason being, that's the biggest reason. Like, my kids are crazy. They're gonna be, oh, mommy, you know, like, oh, that's so cool. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I could totally see like them doing that. So what was it? And I'm sure there are many women who are watching this, don't have guns either. So what are the, you know, good measurements or suggestions do you have for those who are kind of thinking about guns? I think it's good to have it, but that's the biggest fear of having gun.
Of course, of course. And you're absolutely right. That is a huge concern in every parent's life. Is that, and whether you shelter your children from guns in general, is a bad idea, because not only will they come across guns not in your house, but they could come across guns in other people's houses. And that's where, it's out of your control. It's in someone else's control. You know what I mean? So if you teach your children what to do when they see a firearm, then you'll have less likely to have problems. It's the minute that you hide the gun from the child, you make it like a Christmas present.
Hmm.
And they get very intrigued. And just like you said, they're like, oh my God. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, that needs to come out. So, like, if you bought a firearm per se, right? You would take it home, okay, and you would show your children and say, okay, guys, we're going to have firearm training day, and you sit them down and you go over everything on the gun. Obviously, it's not, there's no bullets in it, there's no magazine, it's on safe, okay, we're pointing in a safe direction, fine. Nobody's pointing guns at anybody, right? So you teach them how to respect firearms, right then and there. And whether it takes you 20 minutes and they get bored of it, or 3 hours and they finally get bored of it, fine. You wait until that happens, because until then, they're not going to get all that out, right? It's kind of like piss and vinegar, I call it. Like, they kind of need to get it out, right? So what I would say to you is to tell your children that, okay, you saw it, you touched it, you understand how it works. I asked you, where does the bullet go, to show me that it's loaded. Like, you can quiz them, what part does this do? Go through the whole gun. And then say, listen, if there's ever a time that you want to touch a firearm, anytime, all you have to do is ask mommy or daddy, doesn't matter. We will literally drop what we're doing. We will go get the gun. We will make it safe, and we will work with it. Will you make that promise to me that you will never touch that gun until you ask me, and I will drop what I'm doing? I promise. I will never get mad at you. I will not think you're an inconvenience. I will welcome it. So please do not feel the need to touch it by yourself. Make sure mommy or daddy's here, ask us, and we will help you. And then what happens is, if they're too young, there's something called Eddie the Eagle from the NRA. And it's basically a cartoon of an eagle and his friends. And they're on a basketball court, and they find a handgun in a bag. And they're like, oh, there's a handgun. What do we do? So the next thing, they come out with this big song and dance. And it basically says, stop, don't touch, turn around, run away, and tell an adult. So that's kind of what you get out of it. So it's basically the same idea. Stop, don't touch, turn around, get out of that room, go tell an adult that you just saw a firearm, and that's that. You don't sit there and go, oh, let me touch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another problem though with parents, especially right now in this environment, because there's a lot of new shooters. These people are running out. They never wanted a gun. They never thought they would want a gun. They didn't grow up with guns. And now they're waiting online for 3 hours to buy a gun. Okay. So they get a gun and they bring it home, and they have zero training. Okay. And their idea is, well, I'll learn how to use it when I need it. Well, that's not the right time, first of all, to learn how to use something, okay, in the middle of like a heated argument or whatever, right? Secondly, we want to set it up for success, especially when you have children. So you can't just do something like that and put it away. That is so irresponsible. You must train your children. Do not hide it from them, because you know what's going to happen? And I'll tell you right now, they're going to find it. As much as you think you hid it so well, they will find it. And I'm going to give you an example, and it's a little embarrassing. Ready? My father, okay, my father was and I didn't know this until later in life. He was like one of the forefront people that were printing porn magazines, okay, at night, okay, because it was so controversial at the time. They couldn't do it during the day operation. They had to do it at night. This is how long ago it was. So like 70s, right? So my father would go off to work, and guess what? I would go in his room, and guess what I would find? 70s bush, boobs, penises. I was young. I should have not seen any of that, but he thought he hid it well. He did not. So it just gives you an example. You think you go off to work, everything's great. Your kid's rifling through all of your stuff. So it's going to happen. So if you take that out, take the Christmas out of it, take the intriguement out of it, it'll be like any other tool in your house. And they know, like say you have a handgun, okay, and you have it in your safe. Okay, you don't have it chambered. Okay, chambered means it's hot. Okay, you just have the magazine in, but it's not chambered. Okay, and say something happens. Say you were tied up or whatever, something, and you said to your kid, go into the safe and get me my gun, and you'll know it's not loaded. So even if he pulls the trigger, nothing's going to happen. He brings you the gun, you cock it, you get to business. So like, it's just really a matter of how you set things up in your house, how you work with your children, and set them up for success. You don't do any of these forewarnings that we're speaking about, or any trainings like this, you're going to have a problem.
Mhm. So
Simple.
you just mentioned that there's so many, every election, so many people run to buy guns, right? Rush to buy guns, and ammos are, you can't find them anywhere. A lot of places are shut down, right? What kind of trainings would you suggest for those people to do? Like, is there online training that you recommend, or NRA has online training?
There are some NRA trainings available, so what they do is like, so I'm an NRA instructor, and if you put in your zip code and you put in a specific class that you want to learn, if I am certified in that class, I will come up, and then you would pick me, and then you would learn that way. Or You can hire me privately too. I do them too. But yes, you can hire people online to do these type of trainings. There are places available. You might have to travel maybe a little bit to just get some training in. Like, there's one thing about online training and theories, right? And then you could say the same for martial arts or self-defense. There's one thing about online trainings, and there's another thing about rolling around on the mat.
Actually doing it. Yeah.
Right. There's two different worlds there. It's understanding theory and it's mat time or range time. Okay. So range time or mat time can't be duplicated unless you're actually physically there and doing it. And that's where stamina comes in, strength comes in, endurance will come in, stamina, all this stuff comes into play. You don't get that online. You'll just get your theory. But again, both are needed. You can't just have one without the other. It just doesn't work like that. It's a nice complement to each other. But there are something called like dry fire techniques that people can work on at home. But they what happens is with dry fire is that they harness bad habits.
Yeah.
Okay. And what happens is with dry fire is you would pull the trigger and then you have to rack the slide every single time. But when you shoot that gun normally, you don't have to rack in between every single shot. So it kind of puts like a bad habit into what you're doing because you're going to go click, rack, click, rack, click, rack. That's not normal. You're going to go to the range and go click, boom, 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 boom. That's it. You're not racking in between. So you got to be careful with dry fire. It's good, but it needs to be changed up. It can't be the same all the time. Obviously, don't have live fire in the room. Point in a safe direction. Make sure your gun is unloaded. Blah blah blah. But there's training on it. But again, you got to put the time in.
Let's talk about, Lisa, the speed, like how to pull the gun out from your holster, because one of the posts in Facebook group, the lady posted her holster picture, or like, she's carrying gun right here and this, look at me, like I got my new gun kind of thing. And you mentioned that, hey, that holster is very dangerous. So I want to talk about that, like what holster is dangerous and what makes it dangerous, and also the speed, how to practice. I mean, obviously when you're in a situation, if you have to use the gun, you have to pull it really fast, right? So how can you train that at home? Could you share with us on those 2 points?
Of course, of course. So that young lady in the picture, she was very cute, very proud of her handgun. It was her first one. She was wearing it on her side. Great. But unfortunately, the holster that she chose was one of the most negligent discharged holsters in the entire world. And why they're still available online is shocking to me, because they are extremely dangerous. And what happens is when you go to pull the holster, the handgun out of the holster, you have to click a button that is inside of the trigger while it's holstered. So when you go pull it up, guess what happens? Your finger goes right into the trigger.
Yeah.
And then you pull the trigger and then you blow your leg off. So very, very dangerous if you're carrying it hot, which would be chambered, right? So if I go pull it up, boop, it's gonna go off, right? So another problem with that holster is that if you were working in a dirty environment, sand or dirt or anything like that, and you get it in that holster, I've watched videos of grown men trying to remove the holster from the gun from the holster, but because a little bit of dirt got in there, it will not come out. So to me, to have my life be rested on a little piece of dirt getting caught in there, or me actually hurting myself, I'd rather not have that in the picture whatsoever.
Well, what is that good measurement? Like what kind of a holster should we get? Or is it like a standard, for food, we have like USDA organic or non-GMO and stuff like that. Is there something like that for?
Right. So it depends on how you want to carry. Okay. They're not really a one fits all application. I can give you some guidelines, but again, it really depends on how you want to carry. I personally carry in an appendix, which would be in my belly by my by my belt. And I also carry strong side on my right, but they're two different types. So the one on my belly is an inside the waistband, which means the whole holster actually goes inside my pants, right? And then I have to lean back to kind of get it in there. And the pressure of my pants and my stomach push the gun and give it like a retention almost. So God forbid I go on the floor or I fell over, it wouldn't come flying out. Also, if I go to the bathroom and my pants flip over and my gun goes flying over 3 stalls, that's something we want retention. Okay. So that's the first way. The second way that I wear is outside the waistband, which is a strong side pull. I wear that at the range when I'm working with the ladies so I can show like proper pull. I can still pull from an appendix. It's just harder work and it's a lot more to pay attention. And when I have a lot of people, it's a little rough. But again, it depends on how you want to carry. I don't really suggest the behind the back carry back here because of a few reasons. One reason is someone could push you up against the wall and it'll be very hard to get your hand back there when you're pushed up against the wall. Okay. That's the first reason. Second reason is if you were to fall, that the gun where it sits right on your spine. So you could possibly break your back if you happen to land on it wrong. I have a bad back, so I am not wearing my gun there. That's 100% sure. Now, you were talking about types and stuff. So that bad holster that we were talking about, that was a Kydex holster. A Kydex holster is like a fiberglass holster almost. So it's got it's like hard. It's like a hard plastic. It had that, but then it had that button that I don't like. So that's where it kind of failed. So this is what I look for. Has to be Kydex all the way around. Okay. And the Kydex has to be quality. It can't be crappy, squishy Kydex. It has to have its own form. Okay. Inside the waistband, it's going to be a little less of a form or rigidity because it's using your stomach and the pants, like I said before, to push to give that retention. The strong side one that I have has a very thick Kydex on it because there is no stomach pushing against it. It's just the holster holding the gun. So it has a nice quality, thick Kydex around it, and that's KYDEX. Now, what I also look for is 100% trigger coverage. So when that gun sits in the holster, the trigger area, the whole guard is 100% covered. I can't put my finger in there. I can't put a chapstick in there, a pencil. Nothing can get in there. Okay. The next one that I look for is retention. It needs to have some form of retention, whether it's an audible click where it goes click into the holster. That would be like a level 1 retention. Okay. A level 2 retention would be the click and a thumb release. I would push the thumb forward and pull up the gun. Okay. That'd be number 2. Number 3 would be a hood over the gun. I'd have to drop the hood of the gun, push the thumb release and get out of the click. All 3 of those is a level 3. Most police officers, if you look at them, are carrying a level 3. That means they have to go through all these levels of security and safety measures before they pull it out of their holster. So they can't say, oh, it was an accident, it fell out. You have 3 levels, baby. That ain't going anywhere unless you want it to. Right. It also stops people from running over to you and pulling the gun out from you because you have all those levels of safety on you. So something to think about of how you carry. If you are in an open carry state, I would have level 3 because someone, and I just watched a video on it this morning, someone just had a gun in their, I think it was in their pocket, honestly, which is extremely dangerous. Okay. Someone just ran over in a deli, grabbed the guy's gun and just ran out the door. He stole the guy's gun. So if you had a level of security on that, the 3 levels, he ain't going to grab that. He's going to be like chugging on your belt and ain't going to go anywhere. So something to think about when you open carry. I don't like open carry. I think it's showing your cards. Like if I was playing poker with you, instead of me having my cards are the other way and you see my cards. I don't see my cards. That's dangerous. I'd rather you not know I have something on me. And if I need to use it, I will. I don't want you to make me a target. That makes me a target. People will want to steal from you. People will treat you differently. There's no reason for that. Just conceal carry it or put it in a box or however your handbook says for you to carry, that's how you carry. So, and that's a good thing to point out that every village, city, town, state, whatever, they have their own laws that trump over other laws. So you have to be careful where you live, and the handbook that they give you for your handgun. That handbook tells you everything, what you can do, what you cannot do, how you carry it, how you transport it. Everything is in there. You just have to read it and understand it. And one more tip, they update them probably once a year, but they don't send out an email going, hey, 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 guess what? You can't carry anymore to and from the range. You got to put it in a box. That's not something that they update people. You have to go onto your handbook and look at it and say, okay, what did they update? What did they take away? You got to really learn it, right? So there you go, a couple tips.
Awesome. And about the speed, how can we
Oh,
train?
holster.
Yeah.
So that's about training. Okay. The normal speed to pull out your holster and present on target, okay, is about 2 seconds. And that's an average everyday person. Okay. That's training. It can be longer than that when you take time. It also could take longer if you have garments over your gun. You have to have garment management pull out your gun and take care of business, right? So it really depends on how you are wearing it. Have you practiced? Even if you wear it in your appendix and you leave for the day, before you leave for the day, practice pulling it out and presenting it, because it could get snagged on something and you might want to take that out of the equation or tuck it in or whatever. So you want to make sure that your gun pull is actually perfect, and it will work when you need it. So, listen, it's really about being mechanical. That's the way I teach. And if I was pulling out of my strong side, my first move would be straight up, and my finger would be, this would be my finger, my trigger finger. It would be on the slide of the gun. I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I would have brought my training guns down, but don't. So this would be on the slide. Okay. So I would go up, right? My next move would be this turn, because right now, even though it's close to my boob and my face, I can theoretically shoot right now. So so my next move from here is going to be out. So I'm going to go out together at the same time. My hands going to be on my chest, out together at the same time, and present. So it would look like this, coming straight at you and bringing it up into my eyes. We don't want to do this, because then we start looking frumpy and it's very uncomfortable. So when we present, we stand up with our shoulders relaxed, a nice posture, and present out. And then when we return, kind of the same idea. We come back into a compressed ready. My hand goes on my chest. I come to the side here, right? Next will be down and looking into my holster. I look down into my holster, make sure it's clear, there's nothing in it, and then I put it away. And then I take my hand off of it. I would never ever want to put away my gun into my holster without looking. You could have had a twig in there, something could have fell in there, a chapstick could have fell in it, whatever. You just want to make sure it's clear. I see a lot of mistakes happening putting it away. I'd rather you could rush out, that's fine. But don't rush in. There's no reason to rush away. Rushing out, fine. Got it, no problem. Slow, calculated, because you get a little caught up in the moment. So, sound good?
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, see, how Lisa explains everything in detail, and it just makes such a great sense. I am a gun beginner, but even I can understand it. So really appreciate your expertise. And Lisa, she teaches in this Facebook group, self-defense, women self-defense and guns, once a month for free for the members. So please join us, join this Facebook group. With that being said, Lisa, your interview time is getting close to the end. So I have to ask you this ultimate question, okay? What can a woman do to overcome what if I get attacked fear, Lisa?
Well, I think mentally that's something we have to prepare for before any kind of fight happens, not while the fight happens. And I also preach this with guns. If you're going to stop a threat with a gun, you need to know that you're going to stop a threat with a gun. So you have to mentally understand what that means. Okay, you could take someone's life. I could beat somebody to death. Things happen like that. So if you're going to fight, you have to get over that mentality of, well, maybe I'll get hurt. Well, maybe you won't. Okay, so we have to kind of get out of that self-defeating talk. We could still be a frail girl, but that doesn't mean we should be taken advantage of. Okay. You know, walking around in the world, I mean, if your head's not up and you're not present in what's going on, you're going to be attacked because you're going to be looked at as a victim. So there is no what happens if this, in my mind, it's something that we have to work on like immediately. Like, so if you're listening to this video right now, think about that. Like, what would happen if you actually got into a fist fight tomorrow? You know, would you know how to get out of someone grabbing your ponytail and dragging you away? Would you know how to get out of a bear hug or get out of a grab? These are important things. And this is where self-defense and martial arts kind of go like this, because martial arts is very flary and, you know, we're doing katas. Okay, great. But then you have self-defense where moves really matter. You don't want to be doing all this flary taekwondo crap, right? When you really should be grappling or, you know, choking the guy out with his own shirt, whatever. You know, these are important moves. So if you're hearing this, hire KINKO. KINKO is freaking awesome. She is a huge amount of knowledge in this little frame right here. Use her. She will train you online of what to do and how to set your mindset straight. Because if you're not right up here, you're not going to win because you already were defeated before you even started. You really, right? You really need You really need to think about you, okay? Put you first, because if you are not first, there's going to be no one else, because you know that you're the person that takes care of everything. So you need to put yourself first. Put your health first. Eat right, work out, get yourself to a gym, get yourself trained, get yourself firearms trained, get yourself martial arts trained or self-defense trained. Just do it. Get out there and do it. You're never too old. I had double back surgery. I'm still out here hitting a bag. Oh, hi. Hello.
Sorry.
He's in his undies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I feel like I'm embarrassed for you.
Yes.
Anyway, so that's the point. You know, you have to be set up for success. If it's just not going to happen overnight. So get to training, get to hiring KINKO, get to a local self-defense studio, get to a women empowerment place, get to a range, and get it done. Don't wait until tomorrow. That's going to be too late. You might need it tomorrow. You know, and this doesn't get acquired in a 2-hour session or a 1-year thing. It's years and years of practice, but it doesn't mean you don't start because it takes a long time. Start building your toolbox of this is how you get out of a grab. This is how you get out of a ponytail grab. This is how you get out of a bear hug. Just get it done. And then you'll feel more confident. You'll walk around this world like, you know, I'm not saying nobody's going to mess with you, but a little bit better, right?
Yes, absolutely. All right, Lisa, it's been a pleasure and amazing interview. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa's information is down below, and I highly suggest you to check her out and ask her any questions regarding firearms. She's awesome. All right, thanks, Lisa. See you soon.
Thank you, KINKO. Have a great day.
Would you like to get the devices from the world's top self-defense experts? If so, go on and get your pass from www.womensselfdefensesummit.com.